Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Open Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. Ooh, ooh. In today's episode, we are back in Factory Capers. There's there's the third mission that we've ever done. Well, it's not really so much mission board as a park, but I digress. As in any case, we are back in Factory Capers, and this is the pretty much a medium difficulty scenario of the three beginner parks in Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, as you can no doubt tell by the objective. The setting is simple. An abandoned factory complex is an opportunity to build a mechanical themed amusement park. And the objective is slightly harder than that of Electric Fields. It's to get 1,100 guests in your park. At the end of October, you're free with the exact same park rating requirement of 600. So yes, it's a little bit harder, but it's not completely insurmountable. Oh. And as you can tell here in the background, yes, there's the factory complex in question, along with incredibly windy paths, and plenty of smokestacks and other factory equipment around all over the place, as you would probably expect. Unlike the previous scenario, there are no pre-built buildings or rides or guests or anything, other than the scenery that we start off with, as you can see closer up. The ride selection in here is a little bit more orthodox, but you have to consider the fact that we are at the beginning of the game after all. We start off with the same miniature railroad as the previous scenario, but this time we have the monorail with those streamlined cars, which are my favorite for the monorail. We also have access to a few decent gentle rides, including pretty much free, like 2 or 3 variants of the car ride. Right? A couple of pretty good roller coaster types, like the Wind Roller Coaster Junior, and even the Steel One, if you're so apt to call it. And a few thrill rides. Some of them are decent, and others are okay. Okay. The same water rides as last time with a boat hire and log flume, and a pretty good selection of stalls. Plenty of food stalls, 9 of them in fact. And only one type of drink stall. The information kiosk, which again is important to have a starting item. Balloons, first aid rooms, an ATM, which is especially important, and of course restrooms. Nothing too crazy now, is it? So first things first here. Here as we get underway, we're going to get rid of all this friggin' scenery and stuff in the way. Just that way we know exactly where we're starting off at from. Yeah, there's a lot of already pre-built path here, and not all of it is good for this particular thing because it's just windy and ridiculous, and everything else underneath the friggin' sun. And so the first bit of the scenario will be just me getting rid of a good chunk of this path here, so that way we can actually build a more cohesive path network. there's like I could draw in straight lines, so I'm just kind of fixing the path as I go. In particular, I'm just trying to get rid of the elevated paths, because at least that way, at least the paths that are on the ground I can actually do something with. Whereas the ones that are elevated, they're just significantly harder to deal with. So now that we got that fixed, now it's time to connect the paths all back together, so that way we can actually get this underway. I'm sorry this scenario is starting off a lot more slower paced than before, but this scenario isn't exactly the best in terms of the start here. Alright, so now that we got the path situation fixed once again, and we can actually start building our theme park. We can actually get started here. Of course, first things first, you know me, I gotta have my information kiosk post haste. It's because, let's face it, I don't like seeing guys wandering around lost like a bunch of lost puppies, if you know what I mean. And we're gonna start things off with a rather appropriate right here. Here are the roadworks, which is, as I said, appropriate considering that, well, um, um, factory, mechanical themed ride, it just all works out in the end. So now that that's open, now we should start attracting some guests pretty soon here to fill up the park. Hopefully, anyway, because you never know. You never know sometimes. So now that we have a couple of rides up now, we can get things started. The only reason why guests aren't popping up is because, well, um, as you may have noticed the admission price starts off at $10, and the guests are like, "We're not paying that much to get into the park. What are you, crazy?" So we have a little bit of a disadvantage early on because of that, because guests don't want to pay that much to enter the park. But don't you worry, we're gonna make that enticing sooner rather than later. Yeah, and the game pretty much just confirms it there. There's like either reduce the fee or improve the value of the park. And we received our first negative award, which is for the most disappointing park award. Mostly because, well, our park is not that great right now, even though it has a park rating of 309. If I remember correctly, you get the award if you have a park rating less than 650. So yeah, we're not exactly making a good first impression, to say the very least. And as I doubt you no doubt surmised, we're not exactly off to the greatest of starts. After a little while, we finally have our first guest finally arriving to the park. So this guest finally roll into the park. Right now we're actually starting to get things underway. We also start off with a $10,000 loan, just like the last scenario. Oh, as you no doubt noticed as well, with the loan interest eating away at our money a little bit. And our first research has been completed, and it is the spiral coaster. They're known for its spirally train lifts. You could argue that, oh, we already have spirally train lifts, which is not a lie necessarily speaking, but in the grand scheme of things, this is kind of like a pseudo spirally train lift. Spiral coaster has legitimate spiralness. And if that doesn't make sense to you, trust me, it makes about as little sense to me, because I'm the one that's trying to explain things. So now I guess actually in our park, and a decent number of them, it's now time to start talking about stalls. And starting to set things up. Don't forget to set up your ATMs. Because if guests run out of money, they will leave the park incredibly quickly. And as a extra kick to the butt, but you cannot charge for the rides here. Here, guests will only pay the ticket to enter the park and use services. The rides themselves are free, which means if you don't get guests in your park in a timely manner, you're gonna run into some pretty severe financial issues, which is something you don't want, as I no doubt you've figured out. So after 2 in-game months, we are only 1/10 the way to the goal. That's like the greatest thing in the world, but what are you really gonna do? Am I right? That's what I wanted to do, so that's why I put the fence there. Also, I'm not sure if you noticed, but I did try to increase the game volume just a little bit for this episode. Oh, it might still be a little bit too quiet, but as I said last episode, I will try to fix this issue as the episodes go on until we find that perfect balance. So that way you can hear the game a little bit while also being able to hear me. The spiral coaster is another one of those rides where it's like, well, it's decent. It doesn't knock your socks off, but it's decent. If I had to compare it to something, I would have to kind of compare it to the Gig Coaster, or a naturally low intensity rating and a pretty high excitement rating, which is a good combination. This is what I meant by the spirally train lifts. Us just going around in a little spiral and then going down the rest of the track. And yeah, kind of proving the point there of the spiral coaster's strengths. An excitement rating of almost 7, an intensity rating of 4, and not too much nausea as you would expect from a spirally roller coaster. And in this scenario, you can borrow up to $35,000, which means that, yeah, unless you're getting guests in your park constantly, you're gonna be fighting the bank and the financial flow of your park simultaneously, which is, not fun. In fact, dare I say, it's pretty much the opposite of what we like to call fun, quote unquote. So now we're a little over 3 in-game months in, and we have actually made some decent progress towards the goal now. Now 250 down, 850 to go. So yeah, its requirement is a little higher than that of electric fields, but that's kind of what you expect. The game to get a little bit harder and harder as time goes on. In case you're wondering, the Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 scenarios aren't sorted by difficulty, because in Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 they're ordered by difficulty from easiest to hardest. In Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 they are sorted alphabetically. So Crazy Castle is first on the list, followed by Electric Fields and Factory Capers, when it should be the Electric Fields, Factory Capers, and then Crazy Castle. And speaking of Crazy Castle, that's what's coming up next episode. See, this is pretty much the one thing I don't like about pay for entry parks that don't have pay per ride, because you're just sitting around just waiting for the money to add up and just hopefully have enough to be able to actually do something. That's why these kind of videos are a lot more slower paced. It's because you're just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. I would say that hopefully things pick up, but then I remember what's gonna be coming up over the next couple of episodes. So it's Crazy Castle itself, and then that infamous scenario right after it. If you played Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 before, you know exactly which scenario I'm talking about. But if you haven't played Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, well, let's just say that you'll be in for a bit of a nasty surprise. Next, once we actually get to that in episode 5. Well, look who's back. The looping roller coaster is back for another ride. Not like it really matters, because we're basically skimming the line of being cash positive, but you know, it's the thought that matters after all. I don't know if the game decided to give me a break and remove alone without even asking or what, but for some reason it's just gone. But I suppose that's good news for us, because we're desperately gonna need extra financial flexibility in order to try to keep this park flowing. So, you know what? I'm not gonna complain. kind of sad when I have to rely on marketing to try to speed things up here and not make this video go on for like a good 1 or 2 hours, but you gotta do what you gotta do in order to make it for these scenarios. In case you're curious, yes, the one roller coaster can go around in little loopy doopies. And our food's all got unlocked, but other than that, not a whole lot of extra action going on here. Which you might have expected. In case you're wondering, yes, I am speeding things up here a little bit because we're not really getting too much action going on here, and the game seems too content with just giving us shops and stalls, all for us to actually do anything other than build said shops and stalls. So I'm just speeding this up for everyone's sake. Remember, the goal is 1100, and we are just over 1,000, and heading into the mid part of October. So we're at least getting somewhere. Yay! And we've made it to 1,100 guests right before the end of year 1. So that is Factory Capers. The first scenario where it gets a little bit ridiculous is because not only is it a pay-for-entry park that starts off way too expensive, meaning that you either have to reduce the fee or raise the park value in a hurry, but it's also one of those scenarios that just goes to show you that the game knows how to make the scenarios longer, or if you let it. And so, as year two finally rolls around and the park goes to a more sustainable level, um, 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 that will do it for this video. As you can see, Factory Capers is big, and can be expansive, but it can also be quite slow in the beginning, especially since you can't charge for the rides. You pretty much just have to hope that you get good luck by having tons of guests moving quickly, and having to try to manage your finances, which is not easy, and even harder when you consider the fact that once the guest influx dries up, then your money dries up, and then you're in the ditch, literally. This is the first mildly challenging scenario that we've had to face on the channel this season, and trust me, it's not gonna get any better, because this next episode, so we head off to the castle to try to build something out of nothing, and then the episode after that is the aforementioned infamous scenario from Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. And as I said before, if you haven't played the game, you'll see why it's a pain in the ass. That's right, that once we get to that. But if you have played Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, you not only know which one I'm talking about, but you know just how much of a pain in the ass it is. In any case, that will do it for this video. Oh, and for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next episode, where hopefully the episode doesn't run for 50 whole goddamn minutes. But then again, knowing what's coming up next, that might be a pipe dream. Anyway, in any case, I will see you all in the next video. Oh. Ciao.